Good morning, fellow programmers. Your next challenge is not titled well, but I'll read it anyway. Add up the numbers from a single number, and the instructions are to create a function that takes a number as an argument. Add up all the numbers from 1 to the number you pass to the function. For example, if the input is 4, then your function should return 10 because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. So basically, whatever input you get, you're going to start at 1 and sum all of the consecutive integers up to and including the value you were given. So feel free to work through these examples. I think it's clear now. Add up the digits from, the numbers from 1 to 13 and you should get 91. Definitely not going to go through 600, but yeah. So we'll get over to the code. Now's your chance to pause, and I'll start going into it. We're going to look at 3 different ways to solve this. We're going to kind of start from the naive side and then build off sort of pre-built solutions to get there in a shorter way that requires less work. And I know I use that word naive a lot, but I just really don't mean it in a insulting way as it's often meant when used. It just means, you're not aware of these pre-built solutions, which applies to me. That there's many more of them that I don't know than I do, and there's nothing wrong with that. You learn them over time, and that's the point of this video, is to introduce those things to you so you have more and more items in your toolbox. So please don't be offended if I use that term. It applies to me as well. Anyway, we'll start there and add up. So as you can imagine, we're going to kind of we're going to use a loop to get all of the values from 1 up to the parameter, and we're going to need a variable as a sort of accumulator, and we'll call it sum since we're adding, and we're going to start at 0 and then use your for loop. And often we've been starting at 0, but we're going to start at 1 here, right? Those were the instructions for this challenge. And we're going to go up to and including number, so while I is less than or equal to num. And then we're going to increment by 1 each time because we want to go 1, 2, 3, etc. We're going to define the scope of our for loop here. And then we're going to say, for each iteration of the loop, we want to take our sum and we want to add the value of I to it. And we talked about this shorthand here. Remember, we had divide equals in a recent video. Plus equals is the same concept, and it's going to be like sum equals sum plus 1. That's the exact same thing. So these shorthands are nice and concise. I like them and I use them. So as we do each round of the loop, the sum's going to be updated every time. When we exit the loop, we've gone through all the numbers from 1 to num, and then I think we can simply return our sum. So that should do it. We'll check it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that works. That's perfectly fine. As you may have imagined, there are a lot of people who accumulate numbers. This would be a somewhat common task, and if your spidey senses were going off that there are tools already made for something like this, you were right. So let's try something like that now. Going to refresh, get a new coding page from scratch, and I'm going to leverage that link namespace that we've been using. And this will allow me to do something. Return numerable range. And we wanted to start at 1 and go up to and including number. And then, is it sum? We'll check this. Yeah, let's see. Numerable class. Yeah, this is, if you want to learn more about this, this is your reference right here for that. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, read up if you like. And we're gonna hit the sum. Let's check this out, and hopefully, cool. Yeah. So that worked, and then this looks very nice, right? You're probably pretty happy at this point. It's clear what it's doing. Very readable, concise, the things that we kind of go for. But there's an even better way to do it that we'll look at next. And I say it's better because you don't have to do any sort of looping. We can imagine, I don't know the implementation of this off the top of my head, but we can imagine it's doing something like we did in our first solution where it's looping over the entire collection of numbers. It's probably creating a collection with these values in it, that range, and then adding them up like we did. So let's see a better way of doing this. And your hint will be, if you want to try it, is that you don't have to iterate over the collection. And I'll get over to the code. And I don't know how you would know this. This is something I was introduced to in a math class before, and sort of I thought it was neat and it stuck with me. But you can make it as simple as int num times num plus 1, and that quantity divided by 2. And this should be it. Give it a check. Isn't that cool? Or not? I mean, you're getting immediate results. You're performing a simple math problem. You can imagine with a big collection, you're iterating over thousands of elements, and you completely bypass that here, and you just do a simple math problem. This is really neat. I really like this one. This is what I would do. The problem is it's specific to going from 1 to num. That enumerable one we looked at was cool if you ever had to change the range for some reason. So that was kind of nice. Maybe it was more flexible if you were facing a situation where you weren't always going to be counting from 1. But otherwise, given the parameters of this problem, I have to say this is the best you get. It's going to be the most performant. It's really nice. So if you weren't familiar with that, yeah, you can look up this formula online. It's pretty famous. And as usual, hit me up with questions and comments, and thanks for watching.